What's up, guys? Trey here from TreyCatXO. Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about all the different shiny methods in Pokemon Legends EA, as well as how to use them effectively and when to use them throughout the city. So in Pokemon Legends EA, there is a lot of different methods that you can use in order to shiny hunt, which is nice because you have a variety of ways of doing it, so you don't always have to do the same thing and it gets repetitive and kind of boring. Now, the one thing with this is that some methods are fast, some methods are slow, some you can do AFK if you have a turbo controller, hell, some you can do AFK even if you don't have a turbo controller. But nonetheless, all the methods are very useful and actually very effective in this game. So let's go over all of them and let's go over how to actually effectively use them so you can best utilize them throughout the gameplay for yourself. So the first method that I want to get into is probably going to be one of the fastest, if not the fastest, which is the door method. Now, the door method is basically you're going to use a door to go in and out of a space to reset the Pokemon within a 50-meter vicinity around you. Now, in this specific spot, which is Wild Zone 3, you can actually do this without ever pressing A. So you don't need a turbo controller or to sit there and spam A. However, in other locations, like this restaurant here, you're going to actually need to sit there and press A while doing it. But it will still work where it will reset the Pokemon around you in the same manner, making this probably the fastest method that you can do. Now, when it comes to the door method, you can only really use it in places that have access to doors like this, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of them around the game itself. Now, there are specific Pokemon that you can do this with, such as Gumi, for instance. During the rain, there is a sewer access that you can use the door method, which makes hunting the shiny very, very easy, which is what I show right here. However, there's a lot of places that don't have doors, so unfortunately, you're going to have to find another method. However, there are some methods that are basically just as fast, but maybe just slightly a little bit slower. Either way, this is a great method, and I highly recommend it for the early game, especially if you just want your first shiny. Now, the next method I'm going to tell you about is only available in one spot, the Lysandre Cafe, and this is the Teleportation Method. Now, technically, this is actually the true fastest, but unfortunately, because it's so limited, I wouldn't really consider it because, again, you can't use it anywhere but this one spot. Now, some of the best Pokemon you can hunt are literally in this basement, so I mean, on that side, it's a positive. Like, for instance, you can get Beldum, aka Metagross, and let's get real, everyone is wanting it since PvP, it is an absolute monstrosity. Now, for that one specific spot where you want to hunt Beldum, what you're going to do is you're going to clear out the other Pokemon. That way you can actually hear the Beldum spawn. Now, there's a reason why we're going to do this, and I'm going to get right into that after clearing out these Pokemon and explain everything for you. The main thing that you're going to want to know is that you actually have to make sure that the Pokemon spawn in before using the teleporters. Now, this is also going to be used for the other teleporters that I'm going to show in this video, but for all of them, you're going to want to make sure you do this. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to go check the room, make sure that they are there, and then teleport back to the beginning. The reason we do this is that it'll force spawn them and actually keep them there. Then when we go to the teleporter, we're going to make sure that we can hear the Pokemon after going to the other teleporter. Once we have heard and confirmed that we have heard those Beldum, we can go back to the teleporter and start spamming it. From there, all you do is hit A or have your turbo controller do it, and you'll be shiny hunting for those two Pokemon, and you can check on it whenever you feel like, and then figure out if they're shiny or not, and if they're not, just keep going with it again. Also, as you can clearly see in the video, you can also get the Houndoom there, as well as some other Pokemon that are beside the room you're in when you teleport back and forth like this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the other spot where you're going to have to do the same thing, where you have to spawn in the Pokemon and then use the teleporters, but you still have to teleport back to the entrance. So we're going to do this with Honedge. So as you can see here, I'm going to walk up and I'm going to make sure that I can see all three Pokemon spawn. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to teleport back to the entrance, and I'm just going to simply from there use the teleporters over and over again. And then you're just going to be shiny hunting freely and super conveniently. Now, there are some other Pokemon that you can shiny hunt down here while doing this, like Arbok, Ekans, Noivern, and a few others. But like I said, it's super limited. So unfortunately, you can only do it down here. Maybe we'll see it in the DLC, but who knows? Now, the fly method is the next one I'm going to talk about, and it's one of the most convenient ones. Probably one of the best ones to use for majority of the Pokemon in the game. Also, if you want to double your chances of catching a shiny, if you hit the follow and subscribe button on the channel, you're going to get double the shiny odds. So I would highly recommend it. But now that we have that out of the way, on a serious note, this is one of the best shiny methods because you can hit so many Pokemon by doing this method. There's so many places you can fly to, and then the radius around you hits them with this reset, and it is very, very good. It's probably one of the best. It's very convenient, and it's very useful for shiny hunting almost half the game at least. So the one thing I will tell you though is that certain zones, with how deep the Pokemon go in, will not be able to benefit from this because of the fact that they will be out of your radius. Like this zone here in 11, basically a lot of the Pokemon are further deeper in, and because it puts you right in front of this door, you can't shiny hunt those ones by using the fly method. However, there are other ways of doing it, which we can get into. Now, one of those methods that you can use to get more Pokemon in the zones, especially like zone 12 here, is the bench method. Now, for those of you that don't know what the bench method is already, basically all you do is you sit at a bench, everything around you will reset, and you go day and night, over and over, and just reset everything around you over and over. Now, one thing with the bench method that you can do is you can do this AFK. Now, with the AFK method, you are going to need a turbo controller. However, because there's benches everywhere around the map, this can be really huge if you want to shiny hunt with little time to yourself. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your left analog stick held down. Use a rubber band or tape, whatever you want to use. Then what you're going to do is have your turbo controller just spam A, and it will automatically go through the night and day cycles over and over for you. And you could leave this at 8 hours at a time while you're at work or whatever, but this is an option if you don't have a lot of time for yourself. One thing I'm going to add to that as well, don't let anybody tell you how to shiny hunt. If you don't have a lot of time and this is what you want to do, and finding that shiny that is really hard to get, by doing this method works for you, then do it. Because at the end of the day, a shiny's worth is what you make it. So don't let anyone else dictate that. Now, one thing to note with this method, and really any of the reset methods, is that it's a 50-meter radius around yourself. So sometimes the Pokemon may not show, but it is respawning with you doing the resets. For instance, the Fennekin over there that I just showed actually does get hit by this bench, even though when you first load in from the bench after the day-night cycle, you won't actually see it unless you go up to the wall and zoom in and see it. But it does actually work. I can confirm this as I've gotten multiple of them, including a Shelfa. Once again, I think this is probably the most convenient method. You can use this anywhere around the city. There's probably like 2/3 of the Pokemon in the game you can get shiny, if not more. This is definitely probably the most convenient, so you can use it anywhere there is literally a bench in the game. Next, we're going to be talking about the distance method. Now, this can be used basically anywhere as well, just like the bench method. Sometimes it can be really good because you have a long place that you can basically just use distance to see when it spawns and despawns. 70 meters away is when it's fully despawned, and then once you get in about 50 meters, you can see it again. Once you see that it's not a shiny, you basically just go back out. However, there are a lot of places where you use the distance method that you can't see that easily, so unfortunately you have to go a lot closer, making the run back and forth a little bit longer, also taking up more time. Now, if you want to make sure that the distance method works, what you can do is you can drop a pin and then use that as an indicator to make sure you're going about 70 meters away and then 50 meters back in to make sure to check the Pokemon. Now, one thing I will mention with this method is because you can use it in so many places, it is really convenient. However, it's not always going to be the fastest. If you have a fly method spot or something like that, it's definitely going to be faster than doing this most times. So just keep that in mind as well. But nonetheless, this can be used for almost every Pokemon in the game as well. So this is one that I would highly recommend keeping in your arsenal. Okay, let's now get into the fossil reset method. This is going to be the most tedious method for two big reasons. One, the shiny charm doesn't work, and two, the time per reset is the slowest probably in the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Stone Emporium, and what we're going to do is grab whichever fossil we want to hunt. You can do all three at one time, but not recommended. And one thing I'm going to recommend, buy in bulk, because the more you have, the less resetting you're going to have to do, therefore less time, because this is going to be time consuming as is. The less time you spend, the better. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the research lab. We're going to head up to the second floor where the guy who revives our fossils is. This guy is going to talk way too much during this method, but unfortunately you have no choice. This is the only way we can do this. So thank you, sir, for being a chatterbox. So now that we have our fossils and we've gotten to this guy, we're going to do a hard save. The reason being, we want to go back to this point before the fossils were revived in case we didn't get a shiny by reviving them all. Now, when I say that this is going to take a lot of time, I do mean this. Every single time you revive a Pokemon, he goes through this entire dialogue, and you're going to have multiple fossils to go through. But again, it's still better than having to reset after just checking one. So that's why I say buy in bulk. Now, once we've gone through all the fossils and we've checked to make sure that there is no shiny, what you're going to do is you're just going to shut down your game completely, restart it, and it'll bring you back to where you were before you had used the fossils to be revived. Now, you're going to do this over and over and over again in order to get your shiny. And again, remember, this is full odds, so it's going to take quite a long time. Again, big shout out to Austin John. He did make a video saying what the optimized time is for fossils. I believe he said 44 or 45, and that's every 10 minutes you'd come back and then do a reset if you didn't have a shiny. So if you want to do it that way, you can. Just know that it's going to cost a lot of money. What I would recommend personally is use whatever money you can or are willing to use and then do the method. But if you want a nice even number, like I said, Austin John put out a video for that. Highly recommend. Go check that out. And make sure that you're just prepared to spend that much money per set of fossils. Now, I just want to show you guys how it looks after you do a reset, after checking your initial Pokemon or the fossils. So this is what's going to happen is your box is going to get reset. Obviously, the fossils are going to go back into your inventory. I just wanted to show this so you guys know this is exactly how it works and that it does work. But again, this is the best we currently have for the fossils. So I wish everybody luck. Now, the day and night reset method is going to be used for Pokemon that, one, doesn't have another faster way to do it, and two, sometimes there's Pokemon that only spawn maybe in the morning, like Drampa, or specific Pokemon at night, so you can isolate them by doing this method. So what we're going to do for this method is we are going to do a hard save right before the day changes to night or the night changes to day. What this does, it allows you to go back to right before the day or night changes. The reason being is every time that cycle happens, the Pokemon around you will reset, allowing it to be a chance a shiny shows up. Now, if perchance you do not get your shiny, what you're going to do is you're going to close the game and you're going to reopen it again and allow the cycle to happen again. That's why we are saving right before the day or night change. Then you just do this over and over again and hope that your shiny will show up. Now, this is a great method if you don't have a better, faster method like the fly method or the distance method or any of those available. However, this is going to be time consuming, so just keep that in mind. Also, if you don't have a Switch 2, it might take a little bit more time because load times are a thing. Now, the final method I'm going to go into is the kill timer method. This method is used for any Pokemon you want to isolate that has a static spawn, meaning that if it was to change what Pokemon was there based on the spawn, this wouldn't work very well. Things like Wild Zone 20 Pokemon and others like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how this actually works with these Scythers. So how this actually is going to go down is basically we need to know the timer of their respawn after being defeated. To do that, we're going to start a timer as soon as they are defeated. So basically right now, I have started a timer. So I know exactly when they're going to spawn. Now, a little tip, you can actually do hard saves in increments of like 30 seconds to a minute as you progressively time the Pokemon's respawn. That way you don't have to go back as far and you don't have to defeat the Pokemon again and then wait, say, the full 3 minutes like these Scythers in order to get that hard save right before their spawn. So I actually show that in this video. Just keep in mind, though, that this is sped up, but their spawn was literally 3 minutes and a little bit of change. So it was like 3:06, 3:07, something like that. So what I did is I did a minute increment. I saved on the 3-minute mark. Then when they did spawn, I only had to go back like 7 seconds. And then I did another hard save about 6 seconds into the 3 minutes. And then boom, my spawn was right before they came back. Now, all I have to do is reset the game every time they're not shiny, and then when they respawn again, I can check if they're shiny. Now, one thing you do have to recognize is this takes a lot of time to set up, but the other thing is too, it locks you into this hunt for quite a long time if it takes a while. So keep that in mind when doing this because you can't go and do other things, otherwise you have to reset up every single time. So as you can see here, they've now spawned in. This was just after the 3-minute mark. So it was about 3 minutes and 7 seconds. I had done a hard save at 3 minutes, which means I go back to that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save again at like the 6-second mark now. That way it's right before they spawn. Then after that, all I have to do is if they're not shiny, I shut down the game, I reopen it. It takes like 1 second after that to spawn. If they're not shiny again, I just do it all over again. Now, with any of these methods, you can use them however you see fit. All of them work. All of them will guarantee you shinies at some point or another. They work with the shiny charm, without the shiny charm, with the switch 1, with the switch 2. Obviously, load times will become a thing when there's a switch 1 versus a switch 2, and the shiny charm will obviously give you better odds. But at the end of the day, it is still all RNG, and it really doesn't make a difference having any of those because it's still going to take time. So with all of that being said, I hope this video helps, and I hope you guys can shiny hunt whatever Pokemon you guys are looking for. I can guarantee you that using all of these methods can get you a shiny dex because I have done so on stream live, so I can guarantee that it works. Now, if you guys have any concerns, make sure to drop them in the comments. We'll get to them as fast as we can. We also have a full playlist of specifically going after shiny Pokemon. If you want a specific Pokemon, there is a whole playlist there, so make sure to check that out as well. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys all in the next video.